Alright, welcome back to the Beanbag. This time I'm going to be looking at the very few Season 2 figures that got made for Star Trek The Next Generation. And also I'm going to be looking at some of the customs that I made for Season 2, as well as the sort of away team style outfits that were worn by the movie crew during Star Trek 4. But first of all, let's take a look at Commander Riker. If you've seen the original Wave 1 figure, you'll be familiar with the fact that they made him with the ridiculous gashes on his shirt and on his sleeve, and there was one on his leg as well. And what's funny is, they did, when they made the new sculpt for the chest, they got rid of that one. But if you look really closely, and we'll talk about this more in the later video when I show you, you can actually still see where the gash on his shirt is and the one on his pants. That they just left those on because they were reusing the exact same sculpt. And they also had given him this pose, which we've all discussed in various chat rooms over the years, exactly what was going on, because we understand the phaser hand. That it kind of works, it kind of makes sense. They never made anybody else with a phaser hand. And then they made him with the grabby hand. A lot of times what I would do is that whenever I'd have him either leaning or kneeling or sitting in his chair, I would pose him like that. Because it's about the only thing you could really do with that weird hand posed in that position. And then you can kind of, put his other hand on his tricorder belt like that. So anyways, I am in the process currently of I've got this exact same body. I've popped the head, I've taken it all apart and everything, and I'm working on making a character who was seen during Season 2, actually, of Ensign Mendon. He was a Benzite character. And, I'm having to repaint the body and all that. So, set him there. Now, the next one that they did make for Season 2 is they did a Geordi and his Season 2 outfit. Again, I don't keep the visor on him all the time. I have it in a bag so that I don't lose it. But, yeah, all of the parts on it were literally just reuses from the Season 1 outfit, just repainted with the gold paint, which I never understood why he was the only one they could do that with, because they literally could have done that with the Worf figure, but they didn't, and we'll come back to that in a moment. And then there's the Dr. Pulaski, which I mentioned in the previous video. It's actually a really nice sculpt of her head, but of course the big problem with hers is that they did this on the back, which I can actually show you. If you look at Geordi, all of the other uniforms are supposed to have it where the V comes down in the back, and on hers they made it go up. So whenever you hear somebody complain about the Pulaski sculpt, that's one of the things, this is the main thing that they're talking about. Of course, the other big thing is, she never wore this uniform. Not even once. Throughout the entire second season, Dr. Pulaski wore a long sort of coat version, which I have made right here. This is far closer to what that figure should look like. It's basically, I took the same figure and just made a skirt to come down around the bottom section, and I made it to where you can't see where the little scoops are supposed to be up here at the top. I did also, like I mentioned last time, made a Chief O'Brien wearing the gold outfit, which I got a paint chip. This does happen from time to time with these figures. It's unfortunate when you're making custom figures, is that the paint does chip a little easier on them. There is also, again, like I mentioned, Worf. Why couldn't they simply take that same Worf from the Season 1, paint his bandolier silver and his uniform gold. So I did that myself. And then finally, you may have noticed a particular crew member missing from the first video. And that's because I've never made a version of his uniform from the first season yet. I will get around to it eventually. Is Acting Ensign Wesley Crusher. This is that gray uniform that he wore during the second, third season. Through most of the way of the third season, it was... I know that they switched him to the standard red uniform about 3 or 4 episodes before the end of the third season, and I think it was mainly because they wanted him wearing the full ensign uniform whenever Best of Both Worlds happened. But that's beside the point. This is literally just a repaint of his cadet uniform with the comm badge painted all silver like he had in that season. So next, like I said, I want to look at, because they came out around the same time, is I made a bunch of the Star Trek 4 figures, and this one, man, they've really gotten beat up. I've got to do some touch-ups on this. Captain Kirk here, wearing the all-red outfit that he wore through Star Trek 3 and 4, actually. He had a leather jacket that went over it that he wore through most of Star Trek 3, but he kind of lost the jacket in Star Trek 4. He didn't wear it in very many of the scenes in Star Trek 4. Then there's the Spock in his white robes with the black belt. And this one was actually made with the Data figure disguised as a Romulan. I switched out his head. A real simple one to do. Had to fill in all the little lines that are all over that one. It was kind of a pain. But yeah, and like I said, I do have to do some chip fixes, but it's all really easy to do. But these are still some of my favorites. Okay, so next is Dr. McCoy in his Star Trek 4 uniform, which was a fun one. I loved all the pockets that he had on the front of that jacket. It was really neat. Again, like I said, I got to patch up some of the paint on him as well. Then there is Sulu, which it's funny, you really don't actually see this outfit very clearly in the movie because he has this leather cloak that he wears over this. It's a dark brown leather cloak. But this is actually, and I did pull up the shot photos from where it was auctioned off and took a real good look at it and did my best to duplicate how that looked. And now this one is technically, it's sort of a little bit of a stretch, and this is because, again, I've not been able to get a hold of that Saavik figure in order to make Lieutenant Uhura wearing the proper outfit that she wears in Star Trek 4, which is just the standard uniform that she wore through all the movies. So what I did is that this is actually the body, legs, arms, torso, everything are from the Cadet Troy figure, which it was made to look very much like the away team uniform that was worn in Star Trek 2, The Wrath of Khan. And so I sort of made my own version. I made her decide to make Uhura wearing the away team uniform, and the head is from the motion picture sculpt, and I just added the larger bouffanted hair with the little twist going on in the front. So not technically screen accurate, but it's about as close as I could get that one. And then the last one, which he's the only one who was dressed like this only for Star Trek 4, is Chekhov. And that's because he's the only one who was allowed to change clothes between Star Trek 3 and 4. And I think a lot of that had to do with the fact that And it's funny, I got to looking it up because I found some forums discussing the uniform he wore in Star Trek 3, and a lot of people described it as pink. And it's actually not quite pink in regular photos, but if you look at the, while you're watching the movie, it looks freaking pink. And it doesn't really work for his character even. And then there's also even a scene where, for some reason, in one scene, that it has this like bib thing going on around the collar, and then that's never seen again through the rest of the movie. I don't know what was happening on that film with his costume. But anyways, in Star Trek 4, it was a pretty basic leather jacket, leather pants, with a black turtleneck underneath. And before I forget, I also took, and it's the exact same Scotty that you saw in the regular movie line with the vest, but I sculpted over it in order for him to have the red bomber jacket that he wore during Star Trek 4, 3 and 4. And so that's it for the Star Trek 4 custom figures that I've made, as well as the Next Generation Season 2. Thank you very much, and join me again next time. If you enjoy my videos and want to see more, please like, subscribe, and hit that bell icon. Also, you can support the show by signing up on Patreon, or head over to Zazzle to pick up prints of my artwork, prints on canvas, t-shirts, and other merch. You can find me on social media. For more information and updates on the channel, all info is below. If you didn't enjoy the video, why are you still here? Do you want a song? Ba, ba, black sheep, have you any wool? Yes, them, 3 bags full. One for the master, who can screw himself. You can listen to somebody else.